Welcome back to Just Scott Radio on BJPenn.com. I'm your host, Cole Shelton. Episode 127. We got a good line about a PFL this weekend and UFC on ABC 5. First up, we're going to join by Shane Burgos to preview his fight against Yamato Nishikawa. Obviously, Shane made his PFL debut earlier this year against Olivia Obanmerse. Lost a decision. He says he learned a ton from that fight, and he's really confident he'll have all the tools to go out there and win this fight against Nishikawa. And he knows he has to likely get a finish if he's going to make the playoffs. He said that's what really excites him, is needing to go out there and really get the finish and get the knockout, which he says he's after every fight, but it just adds a bit more pressure on this one. We're then going to be joined by Randy Brown to preview his fight on Saturday against Wellington Turman, who's dropping down to 170. A bit of an intriguing fight. Wellington, Randy admitted he was a bit surprised Wellington's coming down to 170. He's excited to see how he fares, but Randy has a lot of confidence. Obviously, coming off that loss to Jack Del Maddalena, he said that was just a tough fight. Like, he obviously knew Jack was good, but obviously snapped his losing streak. But he really hoping to get a win over Wellington, maybe a stoppage, and then just start rebuilding himself to get near that top 15 again. And then we close things out talking to Gillian Robertson to preview her fight against Tabitha Ricci. Gillian gets her shot at a top 15 strawweight. Tabitha, a 3-1 in the UFC on a 3-fight winning streak, coming off that submission armbar win over Jessica Penne back in March. Gillian, meanwhile, quick turnaround, just beat Pierre Rodriguez in April and already fighting again just 2.5 months later. So a really intriguing fight for Gillian. She thinks it's obviously between two very good grapplers, but she's really excited to test her grappling with Tabitha. She thinks she's a better grappler and she'll be able to get that submission win. But be sure to share the show, subscribe, and tune in next week for another episode of Just Scrap Radio. All right, we're joined by PFL lightweight Shane Burgos, who's got his second fight of the season on June 23rd. Shane, how's it going, man?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, obviously, your first fight, like having to fight the reigning champ, like was that something you wanted right out of the gate, or is that just kind of who they gave you for that first fight?
It's just who they gave me for the first fight, but at the moment, I did like it because, like I said before, I was fresh going into that one, so it made sense to me at that point. But I do see why some people said maybe save that fight for later down the line. But it is what it is, and went how it went. Obviously, wasn't the most exciting fight, obviously, but yeah, it sucked.
What do you take away from that fight? Like, obviously, at lightweight, like your entire career has been at featherweights. Like, what do you take away from that one? Because that was the first time going up to 10 pounds.
But yeah, it was nice. I enjoyed focusing more on training and performance more so than focusing on my weight for like 445. The last 34 weeks is just all around making the weight and getting my weight down as low as I can. It's not really revolving around how my sparring's going. So it was nice in that aspect. And on the other side, I got definitely learned some stuff. They picked up some stuff. He did a good job at taking the fight out of it and making it more of a competition. Like, he did a good job just holding and stalling. And I mean, I'm not trying to sound salty or anything, but I understand why he did it. Do you want to take any more damage since we're fighting again 10 weeks later? So I understand it, but definitely a learning lesson. And I don't think fights outside the PFL would have went necessarily like that. Like, had we just been fighting like a one-off deal, maybe he would have fought a little bit more aggressively, tried to finish me, tried to choke me, tried to ground and pound a little bit more. I think he was just playing it safe. So that's something to keep in mind for going forward with the rest of the guys.
With like just having to be active the entire time and like the 10-week turnaround, like was that basically just an easy choice then to go up to lightweight in the PFL?
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly why I did it. I was like, there's no way I can do 45 and then 10 weeks later do 45 again, then 10 weeks later do 45 again. It would be detrimental to my performance. I think it would hinder my performance greatly. I don't know how my body would react doing that.
Have you been adding size then to like fill it as a lightweight, or do you just think you've pretty much been a lightweight for a couple of years and just been cutting down to 45?
Both. I think I was a really big featherweight cutting down to 45, but now it was a learning lesson too for my last fight going into the weight cut, because I'd never cut weight for 45, and I actually think I cut a little bit too much too soon. So when I rehydrated back, I didn't get as high as I would have liked to get it. So that's why I'm staying a little bit heavier this time going into my next fight. So I'm definitely learning a lesson with that part of it too.
And with training, like how much different is training compared to these UFC fights where it's like you're kind of always in camp for this like 6-month stretch and like trying not to get injured, especially with the PFL? Like, how different is training for you?
I couldn't answer that question going into my last fight. Everybody was asking me, and I was like, it's not really different at all because it was my first time. You know what I mean? I treated it as just a one-off fight. Going to the second camp, I was like, holy shit! I really had like a week off, and then I'm right back into it. So yeah, it's a lot different. Not just physically, grueling, but it's also mentally grueling just having to be in that monotonous. Like I just got out of the gym, done with training camp. Now I'm back in the gym for another opponent for another training camp. So it's definitely mentally and physically taxing. But me fighting 55 makes it a lot better because I was used to doing 45 and that was brutal. This is, I don't want to say enjoyable, but it's not as strenuous.
Do you enjoy that though, where like your set time you're fighting, and it's not like this big wait and see of when you're gonna get your next paycheck or when your next fight is?
So yes and no. I do like it, especially coming back from my last fight. Like I had such a bad taste in my mouth with that performance and with the way that fight went that I was like, I cannot wait to get back in there. And had it been in any other organization, I wouldn't know when I'm going to fight again. But going into that fight, I already knew that I was fighting June 23rd. So to have that, it kind of clicked in my head. And during the post-fight press conference, I was talking about it. I was like, you know what? I'm fighting again in 10 weeks. I can just let this shit go, and I have to let this shit go. I can't sit here and dwell on it because my next performance is not that far away. I know exactly what I'm fighting, and I was already thinking about potential opponents at that point. I was like, oh, okay, fuck it, let that one go. Can't do anything about it, but learn from it.
And then your opponent in Ishikawa, like how familiar were you with him?
I wasn't familiar with him at all until his fight with Clay Collard, and then obviously got more familiar with him since finding out that I'm going to fight him.
Yeah, I know he was supposed to fight at UFC 280 in Abu Dhabi, and like there was some like contract dispute with his promotion. So like obviously the UFC thought highly enough of him to sign him. So like I know he's not well known like OAM. Does that just kind of add a bit of pressure on you, where like just to like the North American fans, like most of them probably haven't heard of him, so they just think like this should be an easy fight for you?
Yeah, so if anything, when you get those kind of matchups that nobody knows about, there's more pressure. Like going to my last one, there was a lot of pressure, but into this one, there's even more pressure because everyone's like, "Oh, you're gonna win this one. You're gonna win this one." I'm like, "Yeah, I am gonna win this one, but let's not act like this kid's a pushover. He's coming in, he's hungry, his back's up against the wall, just like mine is. He's got a lot of experience for being only 21 years old. I'm not taking him lightly whatsoever. I'm not looking at this as an easy fight at all."
And with the PFL like needing the points and stuff, does that add more to this one of like a decision win might not even get you that playoff spot?
It won't get me that playoff spot. So I'm going in like everyone was asking me for the last fight too. Like, oh, what do you think about the points? I was like, I wasn't thinking about the points. So I'm not thinking about it at all. Now I'm in a position where, yeah, I'm thinking about it because if I just skate by and get a decision win, it's not enough. I'm out of the playoffs. I'm not going to make it. So it does add more incentive to fight more aggressively. But he's in the same exact position as I'm in. He's not going to come in here and try to play it safe either because he needs to finish as well. So that excites me though. That's somebody that's going to he's coming in trying to kill me, and I'm coming in trying to kill him, and this makes for fireworks.
Do you enjoy the aspect of like the points and like kind of having to like the rewarding the finishes then?
Yes and no. So yes, I do like that you get rewarded for the finish, but I don't like focusing on it too much. You know what I mean? I hope that my coaches keep telling me, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Just let it come. Don't focus on it. I'm like, yeah, I got to just let that part go. Because when you try to force a finish, a lot of times it doesn't happen. Or a lot of times you end up being the one getting finished. So I try not to let that get into my head too much. So yes, I do like that there's more incentive to finish, but I also don't like that it's another factor that you have to worry about.
And your last one was obviously first fight in PFL. Like, did you notice any big changes like fight week, or did it just kind of feel the same to what the UFC was like?
It felt very similar, very smooth too. No complaints at all. It was honestly a really enjoyable fight week.
And then going to Atlanta as well. Like, how's it like staying in the stateside and like getting to these different cities? Like, what's it like to be fighting in Atlanta for you?
Yeah, so Vegas, that was only my second time fighting in Vegas. I love Vegas. I stayed in Henderson. I got an Airbnb, stayed in Henderson. This time I'm in Atlanta. I've never been to Atlanta, so I'm excited to check it out. Been doing the same thing. I'm gonna get an Airbnb, so I don't have to stay in the hotel around everybody. Just do my own thing, stay out a little bit off site. But I'm excited to check it out. I've never been there, but I love traveling and going to see different parts of the country. So adding this one, checking this one off my list would be pretty cool.
The Airbnb, like I know when I talk to a lot of fighters, that's something they do, especially like the more well-known guys that make more money. Like, is that something you've been doing for a couple of years now?
No, I just did it for my last fight, and I was like, I might as well because you know what I mean. The way it is, for the fights, all the lightweights are fighting the same day, so I'm gonna be around my future opponents the entire week, and I'm like, I don't really want to do that. Like it's kind of you get a lot of those awkward situations where you're kind of just in the elevator together and nobody's talking. And it's just like, oh, this is kind of weird. But so I like the Airbnb for my last fight. It went super smooth, so I'm gonna do it again for this one. Probably do it again from everyone moving forward, honestly.
Your opponent, you're a bit taller than him. Like I think he's like 5'6", 5'7", but like you've fought smaller guys for, like, how much do you think that benefits you, where like you're used to fighting these guys with those smaller reaches, smaller like height and at featherweight?
Yeah, it's a huge advantage. I think all my fights at 45 were against guys, for the most part, guys that were shorter than me. And I like having the size advantage, the reach advantage. So I think it's going to play a huge role in the fight.
How do you see it playing out then?
Obviously I need the finish.
Yeah.
Obviously I'm going for the finish, and I'm gonna get the finish. There's no other outcome in my mind. I can't see any other way. It's obviously win at all costs, but I have to finish this one.
After the last fight, like, do you think there's just a possibility like he just tries to follow a similar game plan to OAM and just tries to like push you against the fence, or do you think because he kind of needs that finish, he won't be following that?
That's exactly why I'm not worried. I'm not really worried about that part, because I don't think he'll try to do that. Not only do I think he won't try to do that because we're in the same position, he needs to finish, but I don't think he would be able to do that. He's not as big as OAM is a big lightweight. He's not as big. He's not as strong as OAM. So, and he's not much of a grappler as much of a grappler as OAM is. So I don't think if he tried that, I welcome it. I've been obviously putting myself in those positions a lot, just trying to work and get better going forward. So if he tries that, be my guest, but I don't see that happening.
And then for you, like, do you get into the playoffs? Like, I know you don't really know who you'd fight, but like, is that OAM fight, I imagine, one you just want to get back in the playoffs?
Of course, everyone knows that. Everyone knows that. I would love that in a 5-round fight too. That would be ideal situation. Me and him in the finals.
And then PFL obviously signed Ngannou. Like, you were kind of like that next big thing. Like, they've signed a lot of these big guys, but I think the big difference were like you and Ngannou to like the Pettises that they're signing was like both you guys are still very much in your prime. Both you guys are still like, he was obviously the heavyweight champion. You were a top 10, I think, when you left. Like, what do you think that means for PFL, where like legit guys like yourself and Ngannou that are like legit top 10 champions in the UFC are going to these other organizations?
It's huge. It's huge, not just for the PFL, which obviously it's monumental for the PFL, but it's huge for the entire sport. You know what I mean? He was the current heavyweight champion at the time when he left, and he signed with another organization. It just shows that there's more ways than one. You know what I mean? A lot of times people fall in love with the 3 letters, the UFC, and I was a victim of that too, if you will. But when you sit back and you look at the numbers, like the money that's out there, there are other options out there. So I think it's huge for the sport. He's made a huge splash with doing that too. So I love it. I cannot be happier that he's back and he's over here in the PFL with us.
And free agency in like every other major sport is massive. Like, you look at the big 4 North American sports, like free agency like has its own day and like everyone's kind of tuning in. Like, do you think UFC or like MMA will get to a point where like, obviously you can't have a day just because there's contracts at different points. Like, do you think free agency like will get to a point where like people are actually like bouncing between different promotions and not just staying locked in long term to these promotions?
I do think so. Like before, but I fought my contract out with the UFC twice. The first time you fought it out, you don't really talk about it. Like it was like you keep it on the low. You don't really speak about it. And then the second time it was completely different. It's when I signed with the PFL. It's like more guys were talking about free agency. More guys were being vocal about it. So now you're seeing more guys doing what I did and test out the market, and not only test out the market, but sign with other promotions. So I think it's only gonna the floodgates are already open, and I only think it's gonna be more common from this point on.
Have you had any fighters like reach out to you and kind of talk about the free agency experience and like why you kind of left and like what you kind of went through?
Yeah, I did. I had a decent amount of fighters, UFC fighters, obviously fighters on my team and stuff like that. It was a good amount of guys that reached out to me, and girls.
Well, Shane, that's all happy. Thanks so much for doing this, though. I appreciate it.
No problem, man.
Yeah.
Ready to go.
All right, we're joined by UFC welterweight Randy Brown, who's back in action on June 24th. Randy, how's it going, man?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing well. Like, is this a bit quicker than what you thought you'd be returning after that fight in February? Like, I thought maybe it would have been a bit longer for you.
No, not at all. You seen how the fight played out. I definitely wanted to get right back and kind of just erase that from the fans' memory. You know what I mean?
What do you take away from that whole experience? Like going down to Australia, like fighting a guy that not too many guys were keen on fighting. Like, what do you kind of take away from that whole experience?
Um, it was one of those things where I took a chance, and you got to be twice as good sometimes. You know what I mean, to get what you want. So I decided to go out there and prove that I belong where I felt like I belong and still feel like I belong. You know what I mean? And obviously, it didn't work out.
And then fighting Wellington Turman, like how a surprise was this? Because this is a middleweight. Like, I was pretty surprised to see him dropping down to 170.
Yeah, it was also a shocker to me, kind of just random a little bit, but it's a good fight, something for me to bounce back. and I think it's a great matchup. Yeah, I was pretty surprised, but I'm happy about the matchup.
He's 3-4 in the UFC, but like he's fought a lot of tough guys. Like comes from Glover and Alex Pereira's camps. Like how familiar are you with him?
I wasn't very familiar um, up until maybe about late last year. He fought a teammate of mine. He fought Andre Petrowski,
Mhm.
and that's when I really found out about him. And the fact that now he's coming down to my weight class again to challenge a welterweight, kind of helps that I know someone that's fought him.
How do you think that cut will fare? Because like it's not like going from like 55 to 45 something. Like it's a 15-pound drop. Like that's quite a bit of extra weight to have to cut down.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you. Honestly, I couldn't tell you. We're just gonna have to find out and see. I'm hoping it doesn't go too well for him, you know what I mean? But I'm gonna train as if he's done it before. I'm assuming he's done it before. I'm assuming you're not just gonna run down to a weight class. So I'm sure he's done it in camp and had a few mock goes at it. So we'll see.
Yeah, is that like something I guess you can't really think about is like if he misses or anything like that, or like you just have to kind of assume like he'll make 170 fine?
Yeah, I just assume he'll be the best version of himself. I'll assume he'll make 170 easy, and he'll show up, and he'll be in shape, and he'll be strong, and he'll be a beast. And I just got to be prepared for that.
I know you've kind of bounced around different places, like especially during pandemic, you kind of was forced to kind of train in different places. Like, has Philly kind of been the new spot? And like, is that kind of like the permanent spot for you?
Yeah, yeah. Um, Kind of like calling it home now. I'm potentially making a move out there, uh, fully. But as of right now, yeah, that's where I'm doing a majority of my training.
How like beneficial has that camp been? Because there's a lot of good fighters out of that small camp, like Petrosky, Joe Pfeiffer, like Sean Brady. Like, there's a lot of tough guys in that camp you can work with.
Yeah, man, that's what I needed. Shout out to Coach John Marquez for always being there and helping me out, and the whole team, like the guys that you mentioned. I feel like that's what I needed in order to kind of push me into that next level. You know what I mean? I've always been a talented guy. I've always been a hard worker. I've always been pretty good at making things work with what I had. You know what I mean? And now I'm surrounded by a good group of guys that are at a similar level that could push me to that next level. That can help me.
How much do you talk to Andre about his fight against Wellington? Kind of like what he felt or what he saw in there.
Well, the thing is with that is styles make fights.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Styles make fights, and it was a good fight for him. It was a great fight. Andre did his thing. He dominated him, in my opinion. My style and Andre Petrowski's style is two different kind of styles, so it's gonna make for two different kind of fights. But there's a ton of things that I could pull away from. Few details that I can pull away from things that Wellington is always gonna do. But I think it makes for two different kind of fights. But we've spoken a lot about certain things that where I think that we can take advantage of. So that's really it. I'm not really focusing on it too much, but there's just things that you can't change that I'm gonna kinda use to exploit, look to exploit.
I know he likes to like grapple and clinch a lot. Do you think like he's gonna try to do that even more? Like probably thinking he has a size and strength advantage now at 170 after fighting a middleweight.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I would assume that he would come in thinking he's the bigger, stronger guy. And, I'm a long, lanky guy, wiry, so I'm thinking he's probably looking to grapple, body lock, get me to the ground, you know what I mean? But again, a lot of people don't realize I have pretty good jiu-jitsu. You know, I'm not really afraid of the ground. I'm not really afraid to go to the ground, but also I developed a lot of new things going up into my last camp. Obviously, I got caught early. I didn't get to show it. So there's a lot of carryover, a lot of residue that people are going to get to see in this fight that they didn't get to see in my last fight. So I'm excited to just force the fight to be where I want it to be, whether it be on the ground, whether it be standing, and have some fun.
And then in your career too, like you've never lost two in a row, and usually after the loss, like it is a pretty one-sided performance, or you get a finish. Like, what kind of clicks for you to like in that next fight after loss, you to kind of have these great performances?
I mean, nobody likes to lose, and you always have to make changes and make adjustments and be real with yourself. And whenever I had a setback, um, there's a bit of a chip on my shoulder at times. You know what I mean? I think that's normal. I think that's healthy for competition sport. And you go out there and you want to prove people wrong, and that's something I've been doing my entire life is proving people wrong. And I make mistakes at time, and I think that my last fight was obviously a mistake, and I got caught early, but and I was unable to recover in time. Um, so you get hungry to want to show people like, hey, look, that wasn't right. That was a fluke. So that's pretty much what it is for me. I'm big on learning and I'm big on becoming better than I was last time. And in order to be better, you have to be honest with yourself and fully lock in and address those issues and mistakes. So I think I can credit that to just wanting to be better. So not losing twice in a row is just a tribute to me just wanting to be better every time.
And then how big of a relief this card is in front of fans, and it's not just at the Apex for you.
Man, big relief, big relief. I was kind of worried that my next fight was going to be at the Apex. I hate fighting at the Apex. I need to be in. I'm an entertainer. I'm a fighter that thrives off the energy of the crowd, and yeah, I'm happy that I'm be in front of the fans. Back in Jacksonville too, where
Mm.
we've had a successful run in Jacksonville so far. You know what I mean? I got some fans out there. I've had a couple finishes out there, so excited to be back in Jacksonville.
Yeah, and right now, I think they have you opening up the main card, like, on ABC as well, so, like, does that mean anything, like, being able to fight on ABC, which is obviously a bigger network, and, like, being on the main card of this? And it's a pretty, like, good card as well.
Yeah, it means a lot, man. It means a lot, and it, it means that you know, I'm still valuable into even though my last fight didn't go the way I thought it was supposed to go, but yeah, it just give me another opportunity to come back and be in front of fans and show what I got.
Is there any pressure on you going to this one, like, just coming off that last performance and kinda just trying to remind everyone, like, you kinda talked about how you always have that chip on your shoulder, like, is there a lot of pressure on you going into this one?
Not a lot of I wouldn't call it pressure, but there's always pressure.
Yeah.
Every fight there's pressure. So no different from any other fight. You want to win, you want to make sure you get your money and you want to move up in the rankings and move forward with your career. So there's always pressure in every fight, but it depends on how you handle that pressure and I think I deal with it pretty well.
And in Wellington's career, like, we've seen him get knocked out, we've seen him kind of fade in fights, like, how do you think that will do at 170? Like, his chin and the cardio having to cut all that weight, but then I guess on the flip side, like, he's not being hit by guys that are weighing, like, 200 pounds or whatever on fight night.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. We'll find out. I'm gonna test it. I'm gonna test it. That's all I can
Yeah.
really say. I'm gonna test it. And you know, they say weight and punching power equates, a little bit and go hand in hand. But honestly, I think I pack a pretty heavy punch. Being a skinnier guy, people don't realize that I do have good pop. You don't realize until you're in there. So I think I'm gonna test it regardless. So we're gonna find out how it holds up.
You have, like, a 6-inch reach advantage, which is, like, pretty common for you to have the reach advantage. Like, how important do you think it is, especially in this fight where, like, you kinda know Wellington's gonna try to wanna close the distance?
I don't really think about the reach too much. I just know um, I have a I do a good job at maintaining range and controlling range. Um, I do a good job using my footwork to control range. I know where I can get hit and can where I can get hit and can where I can hit and where I can't get hit. So I'm not really too worried about his reach and anything like that. I'm more so worried about his skill set and how he can close the distance and how he
Mhm.
can if when we do grapple, I want to see what he's able to do, what transitions he's going to be looking for, what level his BJJ is. I know he relies on that heavily, but I think that I have an answer for that.
How do you kinda see it playing out then?
I think I finish him. I think I finish him early. I think I finish him probably. I don't think it goes past the second. That's how I feel. But a fight's a fight. This is the fight game. You never know. But I'm prepared for a full three round war.
Oh, you go out there and do finish Wellington, like, where do you think that puts you? Because 'Cause you've been a guy kinda, like, always just kinda hovering right near the rankings.
Um, hopefully after this, I should be fighting a guy in the top 15 after this. You know what I mean? I paid my dues. That puts me right back to where I'll be 5-1 in my last six. Um, yeah, and the guys that I have had my small setbacks to were typically guys that were, most of those guys are in top 10 right now. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So yeah, I think that I'm a caliber fighter, definitely a fighter that deserves to be in the rankings, and I'm gonna show that. I'm not looking past him or anything like that, but I'm gonna go in there, perform, have the performance that I should be having, and and then let's see what happens next. But I'm pretty sure a dominant win here wouldn't put me in the rankings, but it should give me my next opponent should be ranked to give me the opportunity to get back to where I belong.
Just a couple more things. Like, what is kind of the goal then for you this year? Like, already your second fight of the year kind of can set you up to have a pretty active year.
Yes, after this fight, one more, and end the year in the rankings.
And next fight in front of fans as well. I think you got to be done with the Apex.
Yeah, I'm tired of Apex. I said it. I keep saying it. I said it one time at the media day. I'm done with it. I'm done with the Apex, man. It's not up to me, but I'm not an Apex fighter. You know what I mean? When I go out there, you know what you're getting. You know what I mean? I'm gonna put on a show. It's gonna be an exciting fight. Yeah. So I don't think I hate the Apex.
And then just a couple more things just on the division. Like, were you surprised to see Jack get Sean? Like, obviously you fought Jack, and now Sean's a teammate. Like, were you surprised? Because I thought those two guys were like two prospects. They were kind of high on. I'm surprised they're matching up with each other right now.
Well, you know, the UFC is notorious for just putting prospect versus prospect matchups. So I wasn't shocked at all. Um, I think Jack is really good, you know, but I think that people don't realize how good Sean is as well. So I think Sean comes out on top on this one for sure. And I'm not just saying that because it's my teammate, obviously, but I do really believe that Sean can. If Sean gets on top of him, I think it's over.
And then with Edwards being the champ, like, what are you kind of thoughts on the whole, like, Covington getting the next shot and like Bilal's kind of saying there? Like, I think Bilal 100% probably deserves it more, but then I guess Colby is the bigger name, probably draws more pay-per-views, which is obviously the UFC's business. Like, do you kind of understand why the UFC's going to Colby, or would you rather see him do the Bilal fight?
Exactly. You said it. You said it. You know, that's what I've always been thinking is that obviously Kobe, it makes sense because Kobe's the bigger draw in the UFC. They're looking at numbers and pay-per-view, and they're dealing with it as from a business standpoint, you know what I mean? Whereas a guy like Bilal, yes, he does deserve it. I wouldn't be mad at him if he just sat out and waited for his next turn, but for his next shot at the title. But who knows, man? Who knows? I would love personally, I would love to see him Bilal be the guy next. He deserves it 100%. But what's more exciting? What's going to sell more? What's going to be more drama? What's going to be get people talking more? It's probably going to be Colby.
And just final thing, like, do you kind of root for Bilal to have like the success and like hopefully become the champ? So like when you get that rematch, it is for the belt. It is that much bigger, and that loss like kind of ages a lot better if you lost to like a future champion.
I'd be lying if I say I haven't thought about it. Right? I'd be lying if I say I haven't thought about it. But Bilal's a good dude, man. That's my dog. It 100%. I root for him regardless. You can see there's good people that you want to see win. You know what I mean? Regardless of anything, regardless of if I fought them or not. But you can just know when someone's a good human, and you're like, you know, this dude. I think this dude deserves a shot. You know, especially since it's kind of trendy to hate Bilal for some reason. You know what I mean? But nah, I think Bilal's a great dude, and I definitely root for him.
Well, Randy, I appreciate the time. Thank you so much for doing this again.
No problem, Cole. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yep.
All right, we're joined by UFC strawweight Gillian Robertson, who's already back in action at the end of June. Gillian, how's it going?
Oh, it's going good. Like you said, already back in action. It was a quick turnaround, so I'm happy with that.
How quickly did this fight come together after the last one? Like, obviously, just fought middle of April to already fight end of June. Like, pretty quick turnaround.
Okay, so I fought Saturday and had the contract on Thursday. So definitely a very quick turnaround, and I guess quick turnaround even just mentally. You know, it's like once you get that contract, you're back into camp and back focused.
I know when we talked before your last fight, that was always kind of the plan, especially dropping down to 15 just to kind of stay on weight. So how much of a benefit is it where you just right into a fight camp? You don't have to worry about the weight cut then again.
The weight cut's definitely still a worry.
Yeah.
Just I need to stay very strict, you know, to keep this 115. So it's awesome to be able to go right back into it. Would have been nice to, you know, get a few more snacks in, but I had 1 week's worth, and now I'm just ready to get into this fight again.
How did you feel fighting at 115? Like, obviously the first time in the UFC, like, was it kind of what you thought? Like, or was the cut easier or harder than what you imagined?
All through the camp, I kept on saying, I'm like, I want to make my camp hard so my cut's easy. And that's exactly how it was. So I did a lot of extra cardio, a lot of sauna, and really just focused on my diet a lot all through camp. And then during fight week, it's like I was walking, like, I think I came in fight week at like 119 maybe. The day before I was 117, and then I ended up sweating out 1.5 pounds on weigh-in day. So the cut was extremely easy, and went a lot better than expected.
And then your cardio and everything looked on point. Like, were you surprised of like how well you felt on fight night as well, just because you hadn't done it in a couple of years?
No, I wasn't, just because of how easy the cut was. I knew that I was in good hands, and obviously the UFC PI worked with us, helped me rehydrate, and I felt good. I usually do like a little shakeout on fight morning, and I just felt good then. So I knew walking in I was going to feel great.
And then already getting a ranked girl and Tabitha Ricci is at 15. Like, are you surprised it's already a ranked person? I know you've been ranked at flyweight for a while, so I didn't think it was going to be a long time for you to get a ranked girl, but are you surprised it's already happening so soon?
No, I'm not surprised it's happening so soon. I expected it just because of the amount of fights I do have in the UFC. I knew that I'm of that caliber, and I expected something soon. Actually, after my last fight, I called out Tabitha Ricci, and the only reason being is that she had a number 15 next to her name. So I just believe I deserve to be up there, and I'm going to show that on the 24th.
What have you made of her UFC run? Like 3-1. Her only loss was like up a weight class against Manon Fiorot. It was like I think top 3 or top 5 that division. So like other than that, it's probably she's the perfect 3-0.
Yeah, she's definitely done well. I think she's good at getting to the decision a lot of times. She's good at getting girls down, kind of playing a safe game and getting back up and then doing it all over again. So I don't think, I don't know, I'm going in there to finish. So I feel like we're going to see that.
A lot of armbar wins she has, like even when she does grappling matches, like does that just kind of add to the fight where that's kind of been your known move to kind of see who can, other than the rear naked choke, like other to see kind of who can pull that off on each other?
Yeah, it definitely adds more to the fight. I'm always looking for the finish, always going for something. Usually the armbar or the choke, those are my two specialties. But I'm always looking for the finish. So I expect to be able to get it.
Obviously not on the Canada card like 2 weeks before, but is like a bit of a bright spot that it is in Jacksonville, Florida, and it's not much of a travel for you.
That's definitely a bright spot. It's my second pro fight ever, my first fight with the UFC that I am in Florida. So to be able to have a lot of my friends and family there that I've just grown up with in the sport is going to be awesome. My whole team's going to be making the trip out there. So I'm definitely going to have a lot of crowd support. I would have obviously loved to be on the Canada card, but if not this one, the next one. I'm just ready to get back up there too, because that's probably one of my greatest memories is the last time I fought in Edmonton in Canada.
What do you think the fight week and like everything is going to be like? Obviously, like Florida is kind of your adopted second home. Like you've been there for years now. It's like, what do you think the energy of the crowd and all fight week's going to be like fighting again in Florida?
I think it's going to be absolutely insane. I feel like the reason why Edmonton is so memorable to me is because of the energy in the crowd. And I feel like it's going to be something similar to that, where I'm definitely going to have a lot of support, a lot of backing. And I just love that. I love having the crowd there. There's nothing to describe that kind of feeling.
And then fighting on a big card as well, like an ABC card, which they always make one of their like better fight nights. So what's it like to be a part of this card? Because it is going to be one of the better ones they do.
I'm definitely excited to be a part of the card. I obviously on ABC too. I'm like, it's cool to get that kind of exposure.
With this one, just like having to go right back into camp, like, do you change anything for that last one? Or like, what is kind of training camp like? Just having to get another fight so soon.
It kind of was just going right back into it. We eased up a little the first week back in. I didn't do any sparring or anything like that. Just kind of started with grappling rounds, started doing some lighter work, and literally the week after the fight, I was drilling. So it's like I was drilling that week. Then we implemented a little bit more live training 2 weeks out, and then just keep on working, getting back into it. And now I feel like it's coming up quick. It's 4 weeks out now.
Oh, was there ever any concern of like a burnout or just like overtraining, just having to go like 2 back-to-back hard training camps like so soon?
It's definitely a concern, I guess, but I feel like I have a good way of blocking things out. I'm a good, my focus right now is just the fight. So it's like, that's the date right now. And then it's like the week after we can burn out, we can relax. But I feel like until then I have a good way. My mind is just good at putting up the shutters, and just staying focused.
And I guess being in Florida, like you can go to the beach, you can do a bunch of different stuff to kind of get your mind off of it if you really need to.
Oh yeah, it's definitely nice. My apartment, literally, we have like a little beach area, so I can just walk down there, and it's just it's a nice relaxation. It's nice being in Florida, and I feel like it's gonna be nice to fight in Florida too. Just knowing, like, I feel like the humidity, things like that, it makes such a difference when you are fighting.
I know you went to that gym, like, because for a while you and Dean were just kind of floating around. Like, how much of a benefit do you think that has been? Where now that you kind of have like a set home, and it's not just driving around going to all these different gyms every week.
Oh, I'm with Dean still and at Coach Ed, so I'm actually going to go and work with Dean tonight at his spot, and then I'm at Coach Ed. Otherwise, it's just nice to have a good, solid team that I'm always working with, always pushing hard with. I got a good group of boys and good group of girls that I can work with, and I don't know. I feel like it was the missing element of my training for a while. It's just I didn't have consistent rounds of just getting different looks, where it's like now I'm getting different looks every single day. We have a huge room of people, and I'm ready for everything.
I was just saying, like, it seems to be like when two high-level grapplers fight, it tends to like be these kickboxing matches. Like, how do you think it match up? And like, do you think that will be the case? Do you think it is going to hit the mat at some point?
With me, I don't shy away from the grappling exchanges because I feel like I'm a different type of grappler. Girls don't really see my style a lot, and it's a different type of top pressure, a lot of ground and pound, which changes the game. So I don't shy away from that. If she wants to take me down, again, I'm aggressive off my back too. So I'm like, it doesn't matter where we're at in this fight. I know that I'm going to be doing damage. I'm going to be attacking, and I'm going to be offensive with her no matter what.
Do you think that is a big reason why your ground game is so successful? Or like, even if you're on your back, like it seems like you cause a lot more damage than the person on top, or like when you're on top, you cause like a lot of damage, where some people are only comfortable being on the top, or like you seem pretty comfortable no matter the position on the ground.
Oh yeah, the goal is to be comfortable no matter where I am in the fight. So I want to be able to make the other girl scared at every opportunity I can, whether we're on the feet, for wrestling, if I'm on my back, they're on their back, it doesn't matter. Whatever situation that I'm in, I want to be as offensive as possible and make sure that they don't want to be there.
And then how do you kind of see playing out? Like, obviously no secret for you, it's usually a choke or an armbar, but like, how do you kind of see this one playing out?
I think we can see it the same as usual. I'm just looking to increase my record. I'm like, this last weekend they kept talking about the submission queen being Mackenzie Dern, but I'm like, I'm sitting over here like, got to get a little bit more respect, So I'm just going to keep on pushing that record farther and making sure Mackenzie can't touch it.
Obviously, she is near the top of the division, but is that just a fight you think it will be like bound to happen at strawweight? Just both you guys like getting near those records for the grappling?
Oh yeah, I'm not looking past Tabitha at all, but I think that that's probably the move for me next.
And then after this one, like, I imagine you want a bit of time off just having 2 straight camps like this.
Yeah, a little bit of time, but I definitely want to get one more in before the end of the year. No matter what, I want to get back in there.
And then for you, like, you beat Tabitha, you ranked as strawweight. Like, what do you think that means for you? Like, you've been a top 15 girl at flyweight, now you be a top 15 girl at strawweight. Like, you have some UFC records. Like, what do you think that does for you in your career?
I think it's just another step. I think that I still got a long way to go, and I'm just looking for that belt. I'm just taking every single step until we get there. So it's definitely a step that I love to take, but it's just the beginning.
And then just final thing, like, what is the rest of the year? Like, ideal year after this one? Like, what's it kind of look like for you?
An ideal year for me after this one would just be one more, getting it in. Like you said, 2 back-to-back camps has been a lot. So after this, I would just like maybe like November, December, be able to get in one more card and hopefully see Mackenzie across the cage.
Well, Gillian, I appreciate the time as always. Thanks so much for doing this.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.